we're running behind, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. First off, I just want to say welcome. Nice to see you all this morning. My name is Shelley Brantley. I'm an Assistant Director with the Technology, Information, and Operations team in the College of Business here at ECU. It's quite a mouthful, huh? I have worked with the College of Business for over 20 years, doing various projects and things from advising projects all the way to strategic management, things with budgets, things that are smaller teams. And so I want us to just talk about a few things together. We'll go over the, project management phases. We'll also talk about goal setting, how you can organize things, the importance of communication, which is most definitely key to successful project management, adapting to challenges, and then maybe some lessons learned that we can all share with each other. I'll certainly share some things that, I've learned throughout the years. And everybody kind of has a different approach sometimes, so I just like us to openly talk a bit about that as well. So, let's see. Why project management is crucial. It really helps everyone communicate to achieve a goal or a project outcome, and communicating all along the way is key. So we're going to talk about the different project management phases. But who's ever had a project that went completely off track? I certainly have. So we'll talk about some ways that can help you stay on track, things that may happen and how you can address them, adapt to different challenges and changes and things that happen. So who wants to share maybe what one of their biggest project management challenges have been so far? I'll start and suggest one. So I was working on a particular project that had two people in charge. One person had a set of ideas, the other one had a set of ideas. And they would contact me individually. We want to need to do this. Well, I think we should do this. So I had to pull us together multiple times and start having bi-weekly meetings to say, okay, you're wanting this, how does that fit and align with what you want so that we can continue to move forward? So that communication really, really is key. Does anyone else have something they'd like to share, a big challenge?
I guess along with those lines, if you having to pull folks together for a schedule, it can be actually scheduling that meeting because people have things going on, even when they're working in the same organization. So just trying to find time in everybody's schedule where we can all get together to actually have that time together to plan for it.
Yes, so scheduling can be a big challenge too. Depending on how many people you have on your project or team as well, that can be one of the things that you're trying to struggle with, just time. So again, communication is key, right? Because if you have everybody up front saying, well, these are the times I might be available, that can kind of help you lay out a good schedule or plan to keep your project on track. So I want to talk about the different phases of project management. Just give me a minute. So overall, there's kind of 5 stages to project management. You have initiation, which is essentially defining the goal. What are you trying to achieve with your project? Or planning the actual task. What needs to be done and in what order? Assigning responsibilities, who's going to do what? And what resources do you have to actually accomplish this project? Laying out all of those things really is important to begin to plan it all out. Then you have execution, where you actually put the plan into action and you implement those individual tasks. You have monitoring and control, where you're tracking the progress all along. Keep an eye on deadlines and tasks. And then you want to celebrate some big milestones that maybe you've addressed in the very beginning of your planning. And then you have closure, where you're actually wrapping up the project, ending the project out. But it's not just closing the project. When you wrap it up, you really should talk about improvement. What went well? Maybe what didn't go well. And documenting those things so that you can learn from them for the next project, or maybe the next person who's going to lead a project similar can also kind of learn from those lessons learned. I think those are all very key important things. All along the way, we've been kind of talking about communication and documentation. It's one of the things that I think is very helpful in project management. I can't get these to sync up. So we walk through deeper into project initiation. really where you're defining the purpose and the goal. You're going to set the scope of your overall project, talk about budget, timeline. You need to identify who the key stakeholders are so you don't run into one of those challenges I did where I talked about you had multiple people sitting at the same kind of level that wanted different things. Bringing all of those people together in the initiation stage to set out what the true purpose of your project is. Every project has some kind of goal in mind. And key stakeholders are really the people who have the potential high impact to the success or failure of your project. They're the ones that are initiating and going to kind of tell you what they want. Those can be sponsors, partners, maybe it's customers, individuals in your communities, it could be other employees that you have working with. Having everyone up front from the very beginning is going to help your project succeed. So I asked you guys to group together. I was hoping to have kind of a smaller group so we could work together on an activity. I want us to talk about what are we trying to achieve and make it a SMART goal. So I have this acronym of SMART up there. I don't know how many are familiar with a SMART goal already, but we have SMART stands for the specific, measurable, that it's achievable, it's relevant, and it's time-bound. You're going to clearly define it. You're going to have ways to gauge the progress all along. What can be done with the given resources that is actually achievable. If it's relevant, it aligns with larger goals of your organization. And then time-bound, that you have a clear deadline so that it's not just out in the end. If you don't have a clear goal, it's kind of like driving without a map. You don't know where you're going. You don't have a destination. So what's the end goal of this project? What does everyone want us to achieve? You can think about increasing fundraising by 20% in 6 months. Maybe it's something like securing new corporate sponsors for some new annual gala, generating a minimum of $5,000 for each within the year. So those kinds of goals. So I asked you guys to kind of scrunch up at the tables a little bit. So maybe pull up to another table if there's just one of you. Let's think about a project maybe that you're currently working on or that you know that's coming up. And I want us to try and write one out that's SMART. Make it SMART, specific. What some of the things that you might be achieving at large. And if you want help, I'm going to walk around and kind of talk to you guys individually too. I just wanted us to achieve an activity before we keep going. Does that sound okay? I think we have probably about 5 to 10 minutes that I'll take to walk around and let's do a bit of SMART specific goals. Does anyone care to share what you worked on or not? It's fine too. Yes, thank you.
Okay, everybody hear me all right? So I work at a free and charitable medical clinic in the Outer Banks, North Carolina. And we do one big fundraiser a year, which is offshore fishing tournaments. And, people can sponsor a boat, and it's not cheap, We have 16 boats sponsored last year, and we make a considerable amount of money off each one. So my goal is how can we get from 16 to 20 plus boats a year? Just getting 4 more sponsorships can raise a lot more money, make the event more powerful, pleasurable, and could be good for everybody. So for a SMART goal, I thought that kind of is specific.
Yes.
16 to 20 more. Trying to do. It's measurable. It's roughly a 25% increase in participation. You can measure that. Is it attainable? Yes, it is. I mean, one of the big things we need to do is start soliciting sponsorships to talk about it early. There's a lot of people have charitable fishing tournaments in the Outer Banks. We want to get to the sponsors before other people do. So get out early. Is it relevant? I like money, and I want my clinic to succeed. So yes. And is it time bound? Yes. This is an annual fundraiser that we do. We try to grow, and the time is a big factor. The sooner we start networking, soliciting, getting out, the more participation and success.
So in my experience, if you don't start with the planning initiation stage, setting a clear goal with all of the key stakeholders at the table with you to make sure everybody agrees, It's not a great start to the next step of your process here and your project. So I really just wanted to take time to walk through and talk about what is a SMART goal. So next we have, project planning. I can't get it to click over. I think my clicker just died. Technology is always fun, right? So bear with me, I apologize. So in the project planning stage, we're really going to break out each step of the project. You have kind of bigger milestones and then individual tasks, subtasks under those. So think about creating a schedule. Who all do you have resource-wise? What is the budget constraint that you have? Bringing your team members together to assign things, identifying potential risk. Maybe it's weather, maybe budget funds get cut, maybe you lose a team member. So thinking about potential risk before you start a project and planning, and then maybe allocating all the funds to the individual things. I keep talking about communication, but really good communication is so key to keep everything moving smoothly. It is the glue that holds everything together. What's the best project meeting you've ever been a part of, or maybe what's the worst one? Anyone have an example? I'll share. Not. Yes.
The worst one is when they participate, they're there.
They're there, but they're just checked out.
They're not going to participate.
Yes, having your team and engaging them, boosting morale is important when you're, getting project management and you're running a process. You want to make sure that you kind of get to know the individuals too and their personality. So sometimes it's just approaching the way you set up a meeting differently. In one of the groups that I've managed, I have someone that kind of always likes to push back on the deadlines and the due dates we've set for a task. So I have found that it's really important for us to sit down together in the planning stage and talk about it. So I have my end goal in mind, and I will push them a week or two ahead of that and say, Jason or Lisa, do you think you can have this done in the next week? I really need this step to happen before the next thing can happen. Then the next thing that we continue to do is walk through every step of the project and say we need to write down everything. Who's responsible? What's the task that needs to be done? Who's assigned and when is it going to get done? Making sure that it's very clear in this planning stage who's going to do what and when they're going to do it. But it's important to have those people at the table when you're planning it out. I think it works very nicely if those people report to you, but that has never been my experience. It's most oftentimes a project where the people that work with you on the project are considered just, open teammates. You're not in charge of them. So trying to compensate to how are you going to get them to want to work with you. Sometimes it's incentives like bringing coffee in the morning. Maybe it's just making fun of some of the different tasks and things that you've got going on and saying, I will help you get this. It's one of the things that all of us hate to do. How can we manage and help you get that done? So again, bringing everyone that's in your project to the table to make sure you plan it together has been successful for me. Having more than one leader on a project, not being clear, having everyone not at the table, that's just a good way to make sure that you're not going to move out the door successfully. Immediately, you'll have someone push back, well, I'm not going to be able to complete that deadline because you don't know that I have this, this, and this also going on. So making sure they're at the table with you to set those deadlines has been really helpful for me. Does anyone else have something they want to share maybe? Yes?
I'll add that probably the best example I've seen of doing this, and it was a large IT project, so there's a lot of people involved. We call it a walk the wall.
Yeah.
So cross-functional people, experts from their areas,
Yes.
would come up and literally on the wall would put up the tasks, the deadlines, the due dates, or whatever constraints, and they built. So that was a way of building a schedule together
Yes.
and a plan together. So I found that probably the most successful and effective.
See if I can get these two together because my clicker has died. So that kind of brings us on to project execution. And I want to talk about a few tips there and things that we've already been talking about. Communication, right? Putting the plan into action. So once you have all the task members clearly assigned to different things so that you can manage the project out the door, you've got milestones set, what are you going to do next? You're going to have a kickoff meeting, right? Start the execution phase and begin to implement the steps that you've outlined. You want to have regular status updates, not assume that the person's going to continue to follow up, that you need to maybe set weekly meetings. We have a SHIP team, which is our SharePoint kind of information site in our college. It's a one-stop shop for faculty and staff to access everything. Well, the teammates that help manage that site, we meet once a week to kind of go over what needs to be added, what new requests have been put in, who's going to do what, where are we at on those things. Hey, you know, Jeff, you said you were going to do this, this, and this. Where are you at? Sometimes Jeff is like, yes, I've got it done. Maybe he's like, I haven't had a chance to get to it. So then we have that crucial conversation to say, well, what can I do to help you move forward? I really need you to have this done by the next week's meeting. Having those weekly meetings helps us keep together in communication, because maybe I don't realize that Jeff has been assigned to 4 other projects and doing these things, and he really needs some assistance, and we could reorder some stuff to make things work better for us all together. So communication is really key. Stakeholder management, making sure that you update the individuals that want the project in the beginning or helping to fund it. I think that's something that we continue to kind of try and do with our faculty and staff, even the alumni, some of our employers, sharing about different projects and the status of where we're at, giving them updates about the goals that we've set. Sometimes you run into individuals that just don't want to change, so we've implemented change management. I won't go into that deeply here, but if that's something that you've had an issue with, I'm going to share my information at the end, and we can certainly continue to have conversations and follow up more. I really want to get into some collaboration tools. That has been very helpful to me to keep everybody on the same page and that communication and documentation that you've heard me talk about. So there's different ways that you can streamline and kind of track the progress and get everybody on the same page. That's to work again, that's great. So the next part in our stage, or next phase, is the project monitoring and control. We talk about deadlines, and putting the team in order and continuing to meet weekly to see where everyone's at. So who uses digital tools like Asana, Trello? Does anyone use any kind of digital tools? What things do you guys use?
Trello,
Trello?
my kids' Cub Scouts.
Kids go to Cub Scout?
Cub
Okay.
Scouts, yeah.
Asana and Write,
Asana
and Write.
and Write? Asana? That is actually the tool that we've incorporated here in our College of Business. We got a license to use Asana. I will talk about a few tips with that, but even if you aren't using Asana, you could use something as basic as Excel. It's as simple as that. Just open up a spreadsheet, create some columns for a task, who it's assigned to, a due date, status, put a little color coding in there so you can actually filter by that. So when you're meeting again each week, you can say, all right, where are we at? What's in progress? What's not started yet? How can we all get on the same page to get started and move that forward? Even if it's not assigned to you, maybe there's something you can do to help Lisa or Jeff or Jason move forward on those tasks. That's why you have the communication every week to see where you're at. And then maybe give you a section for notes. So you can use something just as basic as Excel, or maybe Post-it notes speak to you, and you'd rather do Post-it notes everywhere on a big whiteboard. It's what works for you. It could be a simple to-do dance. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with Gantt charts or how many of you like those, but sometimes having a big visual of where everybody's crossing over on task also helps, because you can maybe instantly see that you've got 5 things going on at one time, and that's just not going to work. How could you adjust some of those tasks to make everything happen at once? A lot of the digital tools, in fact, I think most of them, have a Gantt chart or something built in so that you can kind of easily, once you put in the task, see a timeline-wise of what's going on. And that visual is very helpful. Just give you a quick snapshot of some of what we've got in Asana. Asana has helped us organize all of our projects. This is just a quick snapshot of one that we've got in our portfolio. We got all of these subtasks. The team and I met, we assigned each one. They helped come up with some of the due dates. Sometimes when we meet, that one in red was past due when we looked at it, so we talked about that. What can we do to help get that one moved forward? I think we actually moved the due date on that because it wasn't holding everything up. But we meet every single month and talk about it. You can make this very extreme, adding different fields. We kind of just kept it simple of the who, what, when. But we talked about with assigning the task in basic Excel. So you can still use just basic Excel. I do like that it showed you some nice visuals and dashboards as most of the digital tools do. I am most familiar with Asana, so I just included a few snippets in here. Another advantage to using some of those digital tools is that it can give you kind of a standard template that you can build. So if you're planning an event and you know that X, Y, Z is going to happen every single time you plan that event, you can just keep that as a standard template task. Copy and create a new one, assign the people, change the due dates, and you create templates that way very easily. You can do that in Asana, or you could even do that in an Excel spreadsheet. Keep the task as a blank one, copy it, and create a new one every time. So you have one Excel spreadsheet with all of these various templates of tasks for something that you continually do. A lot of times I find that when we're doing a new project, they're going to have the same kind of steps. We're going to reach out to the stakeholders, we're going to talk about what needs to be done, we're going to execute the actual project, we're going to follow up with the stakeholders, is it doing what they want it to do, and then we'll kind of close the project. There may be subtasks in there, but those are the big milestones, and they stay the same. So creating some kind of template that you can continue to use will help you not forget a basic task that you always, need in that given project. And that has been very helpful and useful to me. Let's see if I can go forward again. I also want to talk about those tools before I get into the project closure and being able to adapt to change. I think that those tools have helped me very quickly move and adjust tasks. If all of a sudden I know that Jeff has 5 things going on, but I can see on that timeline that Lisa has nothing and Jason has nothing, maybe we can switch some of the things that they're doing so that they can help Jeff. And I'm just throwing out random names, but something along those lines can help you kind of quickly adjust. If you see that your budget has diminished, but you still can achieve your project, you will instantly be able to see all of the ways that your costs have been outlined and what things maybe could you remove and adjust to maybe still make your goal. Always thinking about those potential risks that we talked about beforehand, whether it's weather or something that you're planning for, or like me planning for this event even, just thinking about how many people are going to be here or not be here, being prepared for those things. I'm glad we were able to put an activity in. But everything that I do, I kind of apply that project management stance to now. Does anyone else want to share that a project changed or pivot? How did you handle it? We lost a teammate in the middle of one of our projects, and so I had to completely rewrite out all of the tasks. Not only did we lose the teammate, but we lost that knowledge. So I couldn't just assign a new person. We didn't know what that role really accomplished. So all of the teammates had a meeting. We all got on the same page and said, now that we've lost Lisa, what are we going to do to make sure that this all happens? And we jumped together. So you're going to do this part of the task, I'll do this part of the task, and we met every week before so that we could get on the same page and move forward.
I would say I feel like sometimes in our organization, the issues I can think of is like weather-related issues that we have to make or are like in-person events. And sometimes it works out great, we just change the date, but sometimes people aren't able to attend that day, or we have to shift for catering, the caterer has to do something else. So trying to navigate those shifts can be a little complicated, but that's why I think sometimes it's great in that project planning phase that your project plan is like fluid, or to leave some room, or if we have to shift, we have this in our back pocket just.
Most definitely. So she was talking about shifting and preparing for weather. So in that initial planning stage and where you're kind of initiating all of the different things, giving yourself some wiggle room, maybe even in your timeline to adjust. Maybe looking for potential risk of weather, you've got to back up if it's raining to move things inside, or making sure that there's enough space, that there's, you know, a lot more registered attendees than you thought. So all of those things can be kind of addressed in the initial planning stage. And I do always like to kind of give myself wiggle room if possible on each of those tasks. So if I lose Lisa, we have time to jump in and fix it before the next thing needs to happen. Anyone else have something they want to share?
Also, is that sometimes when you are planning the project and when you draft the project, not necessarily it's going to be how it will run
Yes.
in the real life. Because when you start running the project, happens that other actors come to play on it, and that will start, like for example, you have planned a training, but now it's all that you need the venue, you need that partner to allow you that venue, and you have another partner that also needs to agree with you on the agenda, but maybe they cannot meet with you the next 2 weeks, they will meet with you at the end of the month, so that's a delay, but you cannot go forward because they're not meeting with you.
Yes.
So there, so many actors come into action to get things done together with their objectives, that sometimes it will just delay back, push back, and the deliverable that you had initially will have to be also pushed back or adapted to the situation.
Yes. I think you said you use Asana too, correct?
Well, we started this month.
Okay. I can share some tips we've learned. We can speak after maybe, but I actually really like that tool, and there's a few others like Planner, Microsoft Office, various ones that'll let you do the same thing. But when you're setting up the actual plan itself, you link the steps together. So this step is dependent on this one. So until I complete this task, I can't even check this one off. And so when the dates move, I can go on the timeline and drag all of those together and push them out. But I've also set an initial end date. So as I start to creep up to that, I'm like, oh, we can't push this back any further, or we need to go to our stakeholders and say, we're not going to make it by this deadline. We're going to have to push that back if I can't meet with you because there's just too many things. It also gives you a nice visual. You can actually show them. It's not just you telling them all these things aren't going to happen. You can actually show them the task. So that to me has been a really useful tool. But even prior to that, we used just basic templates in Excel, and having that kind of look at all of these tasks that need to happen and I'm waiting on you kind of helps put a little pressure sometimes. Just explaining it, me telling you all these things need to happen maybe isn't resonate as much as seeing a good visual picture. So that has been very, very helpful to me. So when we do our project closure, I've talked about kind of reflecting things that you've learned, things that you didn't maybe plan for, and trying to adapt to change. So when you're wrapping up a project, I always document lessons learned. I think that that's really key to success of your future projects, even as you move on. Because while you think you're going to remember them all, if you continue on in project management, or if you have multiple projects and too many things going on, you most likely won't remember all of those details. And maybe it's someone else that's going to be managing a similar project after you. So we have created like a repository, a little document that all of our project managers can access. And it's just a field of lessons learned. I have gone back to it a couple times. Realistically, I don't know how many others have, but it makes me feel good that it's documented. And it's a nice place to reference and go back to, just to learn things about going forward. And like the one project I talked about where I had 2 people leading and in charge, really struggled with that project and how things moved around for about 3 months till I could just kind of get them both in the same room at the same time. So I know you're meeting with me at this time and you're meeting with me at this time, but y'all have opposing views and you're pulling the project in 2 different directions where you have to pause it right now until I can get you 2 together. But we struggled with bouncing that project around for a while because they were my bosses and I was just trying to make each one happy. But that doesn't work if they're pulling in different directions. So something like along those lines was a good lesson learned for me that I'm not going to wait so long in the next project and delay things. Need to right from the get-go. If I have people pulling from 2 directions, then I haven't done the project initiation stage well. Having them all together at the very the beginning to set our goal together and what we want to achieve. Kind of shared lessons learned a little bit throughout our conversation today. And I probably need to quit wrapping it up as I think our time's about to conclude. Project management really isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Continuous improvement is truly my jam. It's what I really enjoy about my job, and that is centered around project management, honestly. Every step of the way, every time I'm walking through a project, there are things that I learn I wish I would have done different. Maybe it's just even a conversation with my teammates and realizing how they would have maybe handled an approach better. Some of that's change management and just getting to know your teammates and having you guys work together. Celebrating the milestones, those big wins, not honing in on every time you haven't met your goal, but really kind of celebrating those successes and wins and trying to keep positive is a good move forward. If you're constantly negative to someone about why they're not reaching their goal, that's not going to make you move forward. So like an example might be, we've come to this meeting 3 times now, and every single time, you know, James has not done this task, and it's her turn. And we've talked about that it's setting us behind. And now we're starting to crunch up, and it's going to push the entire project deadline back. Really putting the visuals together for the entire team and showing them that, I have found that most of them feel accountable. I said I could do that by this date. I don't have a good reason why I'm not there, and you continue to call me out 3 times now. I'm going to get it done. That has genuinely worked well for me. Has anyone had a time maybe where you've got something that didn't work well, or you need some help with the group? We can talk about it maybe later, unless you want to shout it out. But that was my example of just someone that continues to come to the table and like, oh, I haven't done it. Oh, I haven't done it. You're like, okay, well, I really need you to, and all of us are waiting. So when can you have it done, and having them be more of the conversation? And maybe if it's 3 weeks out and that's not going to work for you, you state that. Well, no, we can't move forward without this. So I have to have it done by this date. What can I do to help you? Would you need additional resources? And continuing to maybe follow up with that person every day, if that's what it takes. Project management does take a lot of one-on-one and hand-holding, unfortunately. Talking about celebrate those big milestones. I think every time I do a project, try to do something big, whether it's go out to lunch together after we've met, you know, one of the big things, you got all the logistics set, we're ready for the next step, or we've implemented this project that's finally live on ship. We know we'll get feedback and have to update. That was a big deal. We need to celebrate those wins and big successes. That'll keep your team morale up too. It's not always move forward, move forward. You gotta stop and just be successful, you know, celebrate that. Pretty sure my time is up. I'm not sure if we have much time for the questions and answer section. I'm getting a thumbs up from the back. Well, let's keep the conversation going. I always have more to learn too. So if you have things that you're struggling with or you'd like to share, I encourage you to reach out to me. Thank you guys for coming. There's always more to learn, so thank you, Pete.